The movie begins 5 years after the events of the first Meg, and Jonas Taylor is not sitting still. He's hidden inside a container on a massive ship crossing the Philippine Sea, secretly documenting an illegal radioactive waste dumping operation. He snaps photos, grabs the documents, and gets caught. A fierce fight breaks out on deck, soldiers cornering him from every angle, until Jonas does the only logical thing. He throws himself into the ocean. Just when it seems like he'll have to swim 200 miles to shore, his friends Regis and Max swoop in with a small plane and pull him out of the water. The evidence is secured, the mission is done, and Jonas is back in the fight. Back at the Oceanic Institute in China, life has moved forward, but grief still lingers. Zhumingzong, now the institute's director following the death of his father, hosts a grand anniversary event. He dedicates his speech to his late sister Su Yin, Jonas's wife, who has recently passed away. But amid the sorrow, there is wonder. Zhuming introduces the audience to Heike, a female megalodon that the institute raised from an injured pup, now fully grown and living in captivity. He also unveils new submersible technology capable of piercing the thermocline, the invisible boundary separating our world from the prehistoric depths of the Mariana Trench. The crowd is mesmerized, but nobody yet understands what that boundary truly holds. And if you're new here, welcome to Great Animation Recaps. Please subscribe so we can keep bringing you epic recaps like this one together. Now back to the deep. Trouble starts early. Zhuming decides to dive into Heike's tank despite Jonas and teenage Mei begging him not to. He believes he has a special bond with the creature. He raised her, trained her, clicked the button, and she responded. But this time, she moves too fast, heart rate spiking, charging at him like a missile through dark water. Everyone panics, and then Zhuming walks into the room alive, soaking wet but breathing. The relief is immediate, but the unease is not. Heike has been acting strange all week, and nobody can explain why. The team flies out to Mana 1, the Oceanic Research Facility, and prepares 2 dive teams to descend to 25,000 feet below the surface, deeper than almost anything human beings have ever attempted. Meng, despite Jonas's refusal, smuggles herself aboard his submarine. Jonas discovers her mid-dive and is furious, considering turning back immediately. But the ocean has other plans. Their sensors pick up a megalodon, not coming from the thermocline below, but from the direction of the shore. It is Heike. She has broken free from her tank and is racing toward them at terrifying speed. They cross the thermocline thinking they are safe. They are wrong. Heike follows them through the boundary without hesitation, and then the real horror reveals itself. They are not alone. 2 more megalodons emerge from the darkness, circling the submarines like shadows. One of them is the biggest Meg ever recorded in human history, a creature so massive it dwarfs everything they have ever seen. Zhuming wants to follow them, to study what appears to be mating season in the deep. Jonas and Jonas agrees only if he can abort the mission the second danger spikes. They follow Heike's tracker deeper into uncharted territory, and what they find changes everything. Hidden on the ocean floor is an illegal seafloor mining station, still fully operational, extracting trillions of dollars in rare earth metals from the trench. A man named Montes is running the operation from a nearby submarine, and the moment he spots the Mana 1 crew, he makes a cold, ruthless decision. He detonates the explosives, even with his own crew still at the site. The blast tears through the trench, sending debris flying in every direction. The thermocline ruptures. All communications go dead, and Montes' submarine is destroyed by a Meg in the chaos. Down in the deep, the Mana 1 crew is now completely cut off, stranded at the bottom of the ocean with no rescue sub, because back at the station, it has already been sabotaged. Jonas, Mei, Regis, and their co-diver Sal survive the blast and re-establish contact with the surface. Jonas devises a plan. They will suit up in emergency dive gear, walk across the ocean floor, and reach the seafloor station on foot at 25,000 feet below the surface, in the dark, with megalodons circling nearby. The team arms up and descends onto the ocean floor, where they link up with Zhuming's group, making the same desperate march. For a moment, the alien beauty of the deep abyss stops them cold. Bioluminescent creatures drifting through total darkness like living stars. Then a snake attack shatters the silence. And moments later, a crew member named Lance notices something massive behind him. His voice disappears. His helmet is all that remains. On the surface, Mac and DJ are racing to identify who sabotaged the rescue sub. The security footage has been deleted, wiped clean, but Mac believes a backup exists, encrypted and stored via satellite. Meanwhile, the team on the ocean floor is running out of oxygen. A school of predator fish swarms them, forcing Zhuming to ignite a flare that scares the fish away, but draws the Megs directly toward them. 2 more crew members are lost in the chaos. They fight, they run, they barely make it, and finally collapse through the doors of the seafloor station with seconds to spare. Inside the station, they uncover the full scale of the operation. Rare earth metals worth trillions. Technology unmistakably based on Zhuming's own designs, stolen. And then the betrayal hits like a depth charge. Jess, their contact at the surface, locks the escape pod bay remotely and appears on screen beside Hillary Driscoll, the Institute's wealthy donor and the mastermind behind the entire illegal operation. Hillary has been pulling the strings all along. Now she reveals it with a cold smile and tells Jess to give Regis a brutal ultimatum: kill Jonas with a spear gun or Meng dies. Regis raises the weapon, button. Her hands are shaking. Jonas shouts at her to pull the trigger. She cannot do it. Hillary activates the flooding system, opening vents into their chamber. Water begins rising fast. At the same time, she sends armed men to finish the job. With time dissolving, Jonas makes a decision that borders on madness. He strips off his protective suit and dives through an operational airlock into the raw ocean at crushing depth, with no protection whatsoever. He has maybe 60 seconds before the pressure kills him. He pushes through the cold and the dark, lungs burning, body screaming, and reaches the airlock on the other side just before he loses consciousness. Now, if you were Jonas in that moment, no suit, no air, 60 seconds between you and death, what would you do? Drop your answer in the comments right now. When Jonas comes to, Montes is standing over him. They fight through the station corridors in a brutal, close-quarters brawl, while the rest of the team battles rising floodwater in the escape pod chamber. Jonas wins. He overrides the station controls and the bay doors slam open, freeing his friends. They board Montes' damaged submarine, and Juming executes one final move. He runs back through the station and activates every light, flooding the exterior with blinding luminance that draws all the Megalodons toward the station like moths to a flame. He sprints back to the sub with the creatures closing in behind him, and they ascend through the massive thermocline rupture, watching the torn ocean layer stretch wide around them as they race toward the surface. But Montes survived. He hitched a balloon ride to the surface using his dive suit and beat them there. At Mana 1, Hillary has already dispatched a helicopter loaded with armed soldiers to eliminate everyone. Mac and DJ are cornered with rifles at their heads, until Juming poses as a harmless Chinese worker, creating just enough distraction for Jonas to ambush the soldiers and free them. But the bigger threat is already in the water. 3 Megalodons have broken through the thermocline and are heading for the surface world. Regis and Maying spot the creatures approaching from the waterfront. Inside the station's control room, Montes reunites with Jess, but their reunion is short-lived. A Megalodon bites clean through their reinforced glass and devours Jess whole, while Montes scrambles away through cascading water. The station is no longer safe. Nothing is safe. The Megs are free, they are hungry, and they are heading straight for Fun Island, a thriving resort packed with tourists swimming in the open sea. The team races to the island and arrives to find one of the Megs already attacking tourist vessels. They scream warnings across the beach, forcing panicked swimmers out of the water. But Hillary lands by helicopter, and Montes disables the island's phone signals to cut off any calls for help. Then, deep in the island's jungle, something even more unexpected charges out of the trees. A dinosaur, very much alive, very much extinct according to every textbook ever written, and absolutely furious. The soldiers panic. Tourists flee toward the water thinking the jungle is the real danger. The chaos is total and spectacular. Jonas takes one jet ski and all the harpoons and goes alone into the ocean to take down the Megs. He kills the first one in a single explosive strike. Then a second Meg locks onto him, and Montes begins shooting at him from a nearby boat simultaneously, hunting Jonas from 2 directions at once. Jonas leads the Meg on a heart-stopping chase across the open water before finally kicking Montes hard enough to send him flying into the sea. The Meg, sensing the easiest meal in the water, lunges out and swallows Montes in one gulp. Justice delivered by prehistoric predator. Back on the island, Juming and Mac head for a storage shed to grab ammonium nitrate for more explosives. Hillary's men capture them, but so do the dinosaurs, which burst into the shed and tear through the soldiers while the Mana 1 team escapes into the chaos. DJ and Regis call for emergency backup while Mac and Juming move to steal Hillary's helicopter. They find her already dead, taken out by one of the dinosaurs in the jungle. Juming distracts the creature long enough for Mac to take control of the helicopter and lift off, banking hard toward the sea where something enormous is pulling people underwater. A giant octopus has surfaced and is attacking survivors in the water. Juming spots Maying trying to help people escape, and they descend in the helicopter to pull her out. But the octopus seizes the helicopter and drags it down into the sea. It crashes. Juming hits the water and is immediately grabbed by a massive tentacle. He triggers a makeshift bomb, but the octopus barely flinches until a Meg smashes into it from below, locking into a death battle that tears the creature apart. Juming escapes through the chaos and is finally reunited with the rest of the team on the surface. But it is not over. Jonas reunites with Maying, and she tells him Juming and Mac are in danger. One final Megalodon is charging toward the downed helicopter, where Juming is trying to reach Mac underwater. Jonas intercepts, grabbing a jagged fragment of the helicopter's rotor blade. He holds his position as the Meg lunges directly at him and drives the metal through it. The creature goes still. 3 Megs dead, 1 giant octopus destroyed, a dinosaur-infested island in chaos, and 1 more prehistoric shadow emerging from the deep. The last Megalodon glides toward them through the red water, enormous and silent, cutting through the wreckage like a ghost. Every member of the team braces for the final impossible fight until Juming reaches into his pocket and pulls out the clicker. He presses the button. The Megalodon slows, circles, and then turns away and disappears into the deep blue. It is Heiki, the creature he raised from a pup, the animal that somehow, after everything, still recognizes the sound of that small plastic device and the man who trained her. The connection between them, 1 human and 1 prehistoric apex predator, is the most unexpected and quietly emotional beat in the entire film. A moment of stillness after hours of pure chaos that lands harder than any explosion. Help finally arrives. The Mana 1 team drags themselves onto the beach, exhausted, bloodied, and alive. They pour drinks and clink glasses under an open sky, surrounded by the wreckage of everything they just survived. If you made it to the end of this recap, you already know how wild this ride was. Now smash that like button, subscribe to Great Animation Recaps, and ring the notification bell so you are always the first to catch our latest breakdowns. Drop a comment telling us which moment hit hardest for you, and click on another recap because trust us, we are just getting started.